Look at this image. Andre Rieu, the King of Waltz, commanding the stage amidst a sea of gold, massive gowns, and thousands of adoring fans. It looks like the ultimate fairy tale. But cut the music and the picture changes instantly. Behind that signature smile, Rieu wasn't just nervous, he was terrified. While he was conducting joy for the masses, he was secretly drowning in a 34 million euro debt. He was living a suffocating double life. The gap between his glittering stage persona and his crumbling reality had become a canyon he couldn't bridge. He had leveraged his entire existence to the breaking point, creating a cruel paradox. He was the richest musician in the world, yet he didn't have money to buy bread. The banks were closing in, and the king was a pauper in disguise. But the reason he lost it all wasn't bad luck. It was an obsession that nearly killed him.
To the public eye, Rieu is the man who won the game of life. He doesn't just sell out stadiums, he sleeps in the Torrentjes, a real-life medieval castle in Maastricht. He commands the Johann Strauss Orchestra, his own private army of musicians, and projects the image of a flawless family life with his wife, Marjorie. It looks like the ultimate victory. But that signature ear-to-ear smile was a heavy mask he wore to survive. He wasn't just conducting a waltz, he was desperately performing happiness, terrified that if the music stopped, the silence would consume him. He was a king trying to outrun his own shadow. Before we start, don't forget to press that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's begin. The roots of this desperate need for control didn't start with fame. They started in a cold, loveless house in the Netherlands. Andre grew up under the iron rule of his father, a stern symphony conductor who believed classical music was a solemn, serious business. In that house, joy was a foreign concept. Young Andre wasn't raised, he was managed. His childhood home wasn't a family, it was a rehearsal. His father, the chief conductor of the Maastricht Symphony, ruled their lives with the baton, not a hug. In that house, music wasn't played, it was executed. The air was always cold, filled with the terrifying silence of a man who demanded perfection from his children, as if they were just another section of his orchestra. Andre was profoundly lonely. While other kids played, he practiced scales until his fingers bled, desperate for a nod of approval that never came. But the real war started with a simple rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Andre saw something his father refused to see. When the orchestra played a waltz as an encore, the stiff gray audience suddenly woke up. They smiled. They swayed. For a few minutes, the strict rules of the classical world shattered, and joy rushed in. Andre was hooked. He didn't just want to play music, he wanted to cure the sadness he felt at home. But his father despised the waltz. To him, it was cheap, light entertainment beneath the dignity of a true musician. He looked down on the very thing that made Andre feel alive. This rejection didn't break Andre, it radicalized him. The serious world told him he was wrong to make people happy, so he decided to build a new world where happiness was the only rule. He wasn't just chasing applause, he was trying to fill the void of a loveless childhood. And to prove his father wrong, he would eventually gamble every single penny he had. That gamble began in 1987 with a seemingly modest bet, a rogue ensemble of just 12 musicians. It was a ragtag group compared to the symphonies his father commanded, but Andre wasn't building an orchestra, he was building a rebellion. He didn't just want to play music, he wanted to cure the common grayness of life. The Johann Strauss Orchestra became his vehicle to force-feed joy to the world, and Andre micromanaged every atom of the experience. He designed the Cinderella-style ball gowns himself, obsessed over the lighting, and encouraged the audience to weep and dance in the aisles. He turned the stuffy concert hall into a living, breathing fantasy, eventually expanding his 12-person squad into a massive private army of performers. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like. It's free and really helps the channel grow. Oh, by the way, I will be posting more videos like this, so please subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another deep dive from me. But filling arenas wasn't enough. The silence of his childhood still echoed in his mind, and he needed to drown it out with something louder, bigger, and impossible to ignore. In 2008, his ambition crossed the line into madness with the launch of the World Stadium Tour. He didn't just build a stage, he commissioned a full-scale, life-size replica of Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace. It was the largest touring set in history, a 125-meter-wide monstrosity, complete with real ice rinks, gold chandeliers, and horse-drawn carriages. It required 100 trucks to transport and cost a fortune to operate every single night. It was a logistical nightmare designed to bring absolute perfection to the world, but instead it brought André to the edge of a cliff. The sheer scale of his ambition was suffocating. To force the world into his fantasy, André didn't just need a stage, he needed a logistical miracle. Because you cannot simply dismantle a 125-meter-wide imperial palace, pack it into a fleet of trucks, and reassemble it in a different city overnight. He was forced to commit financial suicide. He had to build duplicates. To keep the tour moving, he was effectively carrying 2 actual castles across the globe, leapfrogging them from city to city in a desperate bid to beat the calendar. The cost was astronomical. The replica became a parasite, sucking the life out of his empire to the tune of 34 million euros. André was bleeding money. Every fountain, every gold leaf, and every slab of ice compounded the debt until his bank accounts were redder than the velvet seats in the arena. The banks panicked. They looked at the ledger and saw a madman hemorrhaging cash. They wanted to pull the plug and seize everything. He didn't just risk his career. He mortgaged his existence. He put his private home, his recording studio, his life's work, and even his beloved Stradivarius violin on the line as collateral. If the tour failed, he wouldn't just be broke, he would be destitute, stripped of the very tools he used to make music. Every night he walked out in front of thousands of adoring fans, smiling like a king in his golden carriage, while behind the curtain he was suffocating under the weight of a debt that threatened to erase him completely. In 2009, the fantasy finally collapsed with a single phone call. The bank manager didn't offer a warning, he delivered a verdict. André was 34 million euros in the red. His accounts were frozen. The bank was clear. They were coming for everything. His recording studio, his intellectual property, and even the rights to his own name. But the true terror wasn't losing his assets. It was losing his people. André looked at his orchestra, dozens of musicians who had trusted him with their lives, and realized he might have to fire them all. These weren't just employees, they were his family. The thought of looking them in the eye and destroying their careers cut deeper than any financial ruin. He later confessed he would rather lose his priceless Stradivarius than be forced to disband the group he loved. Yet the show had to go on. That very night, with his empire crumbling, André stepped into the spotlight to perform. The irony was cruel. He raised his baton to conduct the Blue Danube, the most joyful, optimistic waltz ever written, while fighting back the urge to vomit from sheer panic. He swayed to the rhythm, locking eyes with adoring fans who saw only a musical god at the height of his power. They cheered for the waltz king, never suspecting that the man holding the violin was holding back tears, terrified that this might be the last time he ever took the stage. He was surrounded by thousands, yet completely, devastatingly alone. Adrenaline is a powerful drug, but it has an expiration date. For months, André had been running on pure cortisol, willing his body to ignore the panic attacking him from the inside out. But in 2010, the biology of his stress finally caught up with the physics of his schedule. The collapse didn't happen on stage with a dramatic faint. It happened in the quiet terror of his own home. A viral infection attacked his vestibular nerve, the tiny, delicate wire that controls balance. Overnight, the man who commanded the rhythm of the world lost his own equilibrium. The symptoms were violent and relentless. The room didn't just spin, it pitched and rolled like a ship in a hurricane. If he tried to stand, the floor rushed up to meet him. If he opened his eyes, the nausea was instant. The King of Waltz, who had spent his life making millions of people dance, was suddenly unable to walk a straight line to his own bathroom. He was confined to a darkened room, lying flat on his back for months, staring at a ceiling that refused to stay still. The sold-out tours in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand were cancelled. The violins were packed away. For the first time in decades, the music stopped completely. There were no cheers, no applause, and no Blue Danube. There was only the spinning dark, and a silence so heavy it was deafening. In that suffocating stillness, one voice refused to tremble: Marjorie. For decades, she had been the silent architect behind his fame, the language teacher who grounded the artist. Now, with André incapacitated by vertigo and the banks circling like vultures over a €34 million debt from his disastrous Schönbrunn Palace tour, she didn't pack her bags. She took command. While André lay in the dark, unable to lift his head without the world pitching violent circles, Marjorie faced the financial hurricane raging outside. The castle tour had been a romantic, reckless dream that nearly bankrupted them. The banks wanted to seize the orchestra, the studio, the life they had built. Marjorie stood between them and her husband. She became the ruthless guardian of their survival. She audited their existence with surgical precision. If it wasn't essential to keeping the orchestra paid and the family fed, it was liquidated. They leveraged their home and emptied their savings. While André had spent a lifetime building castles in the air, Marjorie was the one who inspected the foundation. He was the wild dreamer who believed magic would pay the bills. She was the undeniable reality check. When the panic threatened to break him completely, when the shame of the debt and the terror of the illness merged into a hopeless weight, she sat by his bed, looked him in the eye, and delivered the only promise that mattered. We will fix this. And they did, not with a miracle, but with brutal discipline. Marjorie negotiated with the banks, restructured the business, and forced André to rest until the vertigo receded. She didn't just save his career, she saved the man from his own ambition. They climbed out of the hole dollar by dollar, proving that while a dreamer can captivate the world, it takes a partner with feet on the ground to keep him from falling off the edge. The silence eventually broke, not with a roar, but with a wiser, gentler melody. When André finally lifted his baton again, the frantic need to manifest impossible dreams had vanished, replaced by a profound gratitude for simply standing upright. The double life, that exhausting war between the smiling showman and the drowning debtor, was finally over. He had stared into the abyss of total collapse and realized that the applause of millions means nothing if you destroy yourself to get it. Today, the waltz continues, but the tempo has changed. He creates joy not by chasing perfection, but by embracing the fragility of the moment. The true legacy of the King of Waltz isn't the millions of records sold or the extravagant gowns, it's his resilience. He isn't worshipped today because he is untouchable, rich, or flawless. He is loved because he broke, he panicked, and he survived. The secret is out, and it's more powerful than any performance. The magic didn't come from the castle, it came from the man who was brave enough to admit he was human.